probably dead. His body will come popping up in the last reel somewhere. Eyes gouged out, fingers cut off, teeth knocked out. See, the police are always off track with this shit. If they watch prom night, they'd save time. There's a formula to it. A very simple formula. Everybody's a suspect.
Here's Johnny. Groovy.
Yo, what up, y'all? Welcome to Fandom Frequency. We are right smack dab in the middle of spooky season, getting towards the tail end of the month right now, and we're going to have a few more installments for the month for you, but this one is a special one. One of my, I would say probably up there as one of my favorite modern horror films out there, man, and I'm talking about It Follows from 2015, the magnum opus from David Robert Mitchell, who is still fairly newer filmmaker in the scene, and I think still has a ton of potential to be realized down the line. But with no further ado, let's get into this bad boy. So, when you're talking about It Follows, it definitely has its share of lovers, it definitely has its share of haters, and it is definitely one of those films that is going to like split its audience. You're going to kind of fall on one side or the other. There's very few people I know that fall somewhere in the middle, in between just kind of liking or somewhat disliking the film. Most people tend to love it or tend to hate it. And for whatever reason, I'm not exactly sure why. I do think that it definitely has a little bit of that elevated horror, which I hate using that term, but just, you know, just so you kind of get where I'm going for. Just the more artsy, kind of more patient, kind of more throwback, kind of more highbrow type stuff, and that kind of energy that David Robert Mitchell was bringing to subject matter that I feel is very down to earth, very much more in that slasher 80s kind of Carpenter-esque style that I think plays very well and was blended very seamlessly with the more artsy, with the more kind of metaphorical storytelling going on there, and the more deeper themes that the filmmakers and the writers and the team is really bringing to the film. And I just overall really dig this movie and think it really does stand the test of time so far in the 8 years it's been out, and stands as something unique to the horror genre and something that explores something that everyone can relate to, and that's sexual intercourse, man. Sex. You know, whatever you want to call it, fucking, whatever you want to say, right? Like, that's the thing that everyone can connect to in one way or another, whether you're celibate, religious, or a complete freak. You can relate to it, and in one way or another have had some kind of experience of your own. And it's just terrifying thinking about the fact that, imagine you hook up with somebody, and then there's some entity or some kind of like weird, crazy STD that's going to follow you around and eventually kill you when it catches up to you, and no one else can see it but you. So are you really seeing it? Is it really there? The whole psychological aspect to the film that David Robert Mitchell was bringing, to me, is just seamlessly brilliant and always plays well in the film, especially in the beginning where you open up with that sequence with that girl just completely dipping out, no pants on, leaving her pad because there is something evil after her, and it's going to kill her if it catches up to her. And when it does, it is some very gnarly results, and it really just sets the tone for the rest of the film and really gets you intrigued right from the get. Like, what the fuck did that? What the fuck happened there? What's going on? Is it a slasher movie? Like, what's happening right there? And that's the kind of framework that that's kind of the way that it frames it to you in the opening sequence. But once you really start diving into the film and you're about 20 to 30 minutes in and you really see what's going on and how the boyfriend kind of lures Micah Monroe's character into the whole situation that she's in, innocent girl from the suburbs, and how all this stuff comes to a head, is just so seamless, man, and just plays so well. And once you get sucked into the overall plot, you're like, wait, what? Is this really what he's presenting this as? And can you really trust the guy? And it's just so well done, man. And it's just so creepy and eerie, just imagining something that can appear as someone you know or someone you don't know, and no one else can see it, and it's coming straight for you. Slowly but surely, it's going to make its way to you. And when it does, you're not going to live to regret it. So that's the whole aspect of it that just plays so well for me. And just the whole way that David Robert Mitchell, the filmmaker behind this thing, was able to bring his vision to life and add so much atmosphere and so much tension to the chase scenes and to the overall vibe of the film. And as you go more and more as the movie goes along, you just feel more dread and more suspense and more paranoia for the characters, and you feel for the main character of Michael Moreau's character more and more, and you really just feel for their struggle and don't even know necessarily a way to beat it yourself, and you're trying to come up with a way to do it in your head. Especially if you're a horror fan like myself and you watched a ton of these type of movies and you're just trying to figure out how to beat this thing and what's the overall catch, where does it come from, and the whole air of mystery that just is layered all throughout the film and just sits there like a fog over the movie just plays so well. And the fact that you don't necessarily ever get a definitive answer, to me, just plays even better. And the fact that it's hinted at, that it's still out there and it's still after them, is even scarier, man. And I just really love the way that it just leaves you on the edge of your seat, like, oh my God, is it still out there? Where does it come from? What is it? You know what I mean? Is it demonic? Is it supernatural? Is it just, like, what is it? Like, is it a curse? Like, is it running in the family? Like, where does it come from? Like, what is it? You know what I mean? And it's just so damn scary. And just the way that they're able to, the way that they were able to execute it in this film is just so well done, and it really always plays so well. And I feel like if you're not necessarily completely desensitized to anything scary, like people like myself, and you get scared of things a lot more easier, I think this film could really get under your skin and really leave you pretty terrified and really creeped out, man. Because I know the first time I watched it, I wasn't necessarily like super scared or anything, but it did get under my skin a little bit. Like, it did like leave me like, oh man, like that was freaking creepy, man. Like, just the thought of that, and the more you kind of think about it and start to play out the scenarios in your head in the way that you would try to get out of the situation, it's just freaking crazy, man. And I just think that just the overall way that the film's put together, between the cinematography, between the direction and the sound design and the score by Disaster Piece, the way that all these elements just seamlessly come together just truly creates a real atmospheric, well done horror film to me in the best way possible, really getting back to basics and really giving you those John Carpenter vibes, really giving you that Amblin vibe, really giving you that 80s Stephen King vibe, that really gives you that creepy, eerie feeling that you don't get from a ton of horror films today. So I really love the way that he was seamlessly able to do it. And that was kind of right in the middle of the horror renaissance we kind of went throughout the late 2000s and then throughout the whole 2010s. That's still carrying over into the 2020s pretty well. I think that horror is kind of like almost better than ever. And that was right in the midst of that. And I think this is still one of the best gems to come out of that era, and is going to go down as one of the best horror films to come out of the modern era in the 21st century. So I absolutely love the film. It never gets old to me. It's endlessly rewatchable. Now, don't get me wrong, though. It does have a few flaws that does make this film, that does keep this film from being completely perfect. But I still love this movie. But the few things in there that do kind of bother me a little bit is, one, I don't necessarily love the fact that you don't really necessarily get to really learn much about the other characters, other than the guy that's kind of simping for Michael Monroe's character the whole time. You don't learn a lot about the other characters, including her sister, and I think that's kind of at a disservice to the characters and kind of serves as a disservice to the film, because you don't really feel for any of the other characters involved in the situation. And I do think just adding a bit more layers to them in just their interactions, and just adding just a little bit more there to the side characters, or just adding one supporting character that can really build on Michael Monroe's character, Jay, I believe her name is, a lot more powerful than it did. I think they could have just gave that to at least the sister or somebody in the little friend group or whatever. And I think that kind of was a little bit of an element missing from the film for sure. And I do also think that they could have kind of went there a little more gnarlier with the kills at certain points, and could have went there a little bit and been a little bit more visceral with it at points. While some points it really is visceral and really works and really is disturbing, at other times I do think they could have upped the ante a little bit in the scare department and could have really sent certain sequences home a little bit stronger than they did. Not too many. I'd really just say one or two moments in the film. But overall, it's so fucking well done, man. Like, if you haven't seen this film and you didn't mind spoilers and watched all the way to this point in the video, you're still gonna love this film. And if you've seen it before like me and dig it, you totally understand why. And if you do, and if you have seen the film and you don't necessarily dig it, maybe I can kind of entice you to go back and give it another chance, because this film's pretty kick-ass, man. Like, when you really sit down with it and really give it a shot and come in with an open mind and really take in the experience and really appreciate the overall, like, mystique and the overall like tension and atmosphere and the overall creep factor that this film brings, and really does play like a true horror film, in my personal opinion. I think you'll learn to appreciate it more. I absolutely love this movie. I think it's definitely a modern classic and is going to go on to become a classic in and of its own right. Not perfect, but it's definitely a kick-ass movie. Man, I can't even rank this thing because I'm just way too biased on it. But you got to add this to your freaking Halloween watch list. You got to watch this every spooky season all year round. It Follows is a fucking awesome movie. And make sure y'all don't go anywhere and be sleeping on the channel. Click the subscribe buttons and all that stuff below the video, the bells, all that, so you don't miss any more of the horror goodness we got on the channel. We got a ton of pop culture dopeness coming at y'all. Blink-182, Loki Season 2. We got a lot of crazy stuff going on, and it all doesn't rhyme with 2. We're going to catch you on the next video. Thank you for sticking around and watching to the very end. We love you. We appreciate you. Trick or treat, y'all. Happy Halloween. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace out.